Our story begins not with notes or songs, but with breath. In caves like Divje in Slovenia, 50,000 years ago, an unexpected survival whispered its presence. This femur fragment, pierced with 4 holes, may be the earliest Homo sapien, or Neanderthal, attempt at music. Known as the Divje Babe artifact, it stands at the crossroads of science and wonder. The positioning of the holes align with possible musical design, but the debate continues. Some scholars argue these are carnivore bites, not crafted holes. Others, like Luban Dinkarowski, built playable replicas, capable of 3.5 octaves. Some 10,000 years younger, Homo sapiens carved the Geißenklösterle Flutes, made from bird bone and mammoth ivory, undebated instruments dating to approximately 43,000 years ago. These flutes have at least 5 finger holes and precise measurements, evidence of deliberate acoustic design. These flutes show an awareness of scales and intervals. They likely played ceremonial music, praised in burial sites and community rituals. Halfway across the world, at Jiahu, in China, 7,000 years ago, people carved flutes from crane wing bones, some still playable today. Fast forward to early ancient civilizations. In Egypt, flutes appear in imagery from around 3,300 BC, and real instruments preserved in tombs from the Middle Kingdom show vertical end-blown cane reed flutes, nearly 1 meter long, with finger holes. These reed flutes were woven into the very fabric of pharaonic ritual and state life. Carved with 4 finger holes, they voice the pentatonic scale, the music of kings and temples. And in Sudan, once under Egypt's crown, those same 5 notes are still played today, carrying the sound of a civilization that once ruled the Nile. Instruments meant to honor deities, reaffirm the divine authority of kingship, and sustain the cosmic order. In Mesopotamia, by around 2600 BC, musicians were already shown in court and temple scenes playing reed double pipes, 2 parallel tubes, each with finger holes. These instruments, often made from river reed or cane, could play a melody on one pipe while the other held a drone, a style still found in the region today. Their sound accompanied royal ceremonies, religious festivals, and processions for the gods, making them a central voice in the public and sacred life of the world's first cities. The double pipes used single vibrating reed tongues, much like modern clarinets. This made them louder and more piercing than flutes, ideal for open-air rituals and large gatherings in Mesopotamian temple courtyards and city squares. They are the ancestors of a rich family of folk instruments still played across the Middle East and Mediterranean, from the double-pipe midjuis and yargu to Sardinia's launa das, as well as related double reed instruments like the mizmar, zuna, and the many varieties of shawm found throughout Asia and Western Europe. While Egypt and Mesopotamia shaped the sounds of temples and palaces, other civilizations breathed life into their own instruments. In the high Andes, 3,000 years ago, the Wari culture carved panpipes from cane and clay, playing them in vast ensembles during harvest rituals. In ancient Greece, the aulos, 2 reed pipes bound together, led the rhythm in athletic games and religious processions. Maori in Polynesia crafted the nuguru, a nose flute played in moments of courtship or quiet reflection. Across Africa, long ivory trumpets carried the voices of kings across their courts, while in the Pacific, shell conches were sounded to mark the start of ceremonies or to summon warriors. Each culture, in its own way, gave the breath a place in daily life, ritual, and power. Over centuries, people discovered many ways to make air sing. The duck flute, like the ancient recorder, enclosed the breath to produce a clear, steady tone, perfect for teaching melodies or playing indoors. The open imbaucha flute, like the bansuri or the Egyptian ney, demanded skill but rewarded it with a flexible, expressive voice. Single reed instruments, from the Mesopotamian double-pipes to today's clarinet, gave sharper and more penetrating notes for outdoor ceremonies. Double-reed instruments, like the zurna and its medieval Schaum descendants, cut through the noise of marketplaces, weddings, and military parades. Horns, whether cast in bronze by the Greeks and Romans or carved from animal horns, were built for war, for ritual, and for authority. From the Roman cornu signaling troops to the conch shell commanding silence before a prayer. From prehistoric caves to city streets today, wind instruments have carried the same human impulses: to signal, to celebrate, to mourn, to pray. Many of the sounds our ancestors knew are still with us. The pentatonic scale of ancient Egypt's flute heard again in Sudan. The double-reed cry of the zurna echoing the streets of Istanbul. The deep call of the conch in Pacific temples and Indian weddings. In every era, the culture shapes the instrument, and the instrument shapes the culture. The breath remains the same. Across continents and centuries, the breath took many shapes. Hollow bone, carved reed, hammered brass, coiled metal, and sculpted clay. Yet the principle stayed the same. A column of air, set in motion, transformed into vibration, then into music. From these earliest forms came families of instruments we still recognize. Flutes that guide melodies, reeds that animate festivals, horns that carry power. The diversity we see today grew from shared discoveries made in distant times and places, each culture finding its own way to turn air into art. The journey of wind instruments is more than a story of invention. It's a story of patterns. From edge-blown flutes to reed-driven pipes to the great horns of ceremony, each design answers the same question: how can breath become music? In our next episode, we'll explore how musicians, artisans, and scholars began to group and define these instruments, not only by their shape, but by the science of how they speak.